to the design room here in the Jeffrey R. Holland Centennial Commons building. I'm Steve Johnson, Director of Public Relations here at Dixie State. To my left is Dixie State College President Dr. Stephen D. Nadal. To his left is Dixie State College Board of Trustees Chair Stephen Kaplan. To his left is Vice Chair and member of the Executive Committee John Pike, and to his left is also Board of Trustee and member of the Executive Committee David Clark. And we'll now open it up for questions.
Just unanimous. Does that surprise you? That I mean, I think this was a name a lot of people showed a lot of support for all along.
Well, see if this mic's on. I think unanimous came after a lot of work, after looking at the results of the Sorensen survey and talking to so many community members. You know, there were lots of different variations, lots of different things directions that could have gone. But yeah, I think again, it's just indicative of this board and really the community. We try to get together and go for a common goal, so really I'm not surprised after all the work was done.
Maybe I could add to that while the vote was unanimous, there were differences of opinion regarding what the name should be, and after thoughtful collaboration, it became clear that the majority of the opinion, not only on the board, but among all stakeholders, every stakeholder group favored the name Dixie State University. And so as a board, we felt that it would be beneficial to unite behind that majority opinion. And we're happy to report that it was indeed, regarding the name, was unanimous.
Were you surprised at the controversy? Because there were some people who were upset and hurt by the name. Were you surprised by the controversy, or did you kind of expect that a little bit going in?
Well, we had some level of expectation that there would be controversy around the name selection, and discerned that it was not really about the name Dixie as much as it was about the symbols of the Confederacy that in an era, a phase of our history, were associated with the name Dixie. So we knew that it would be appropriate to properly retire those emblems, formally retire them, and that it would be appropriate to make an acknowledgement that those emblems mean one thing to one group of stakeholders and they mean something else to another set of stakeholders. And given the sensitivities and the concern that the administration, the board, and all the stakeholders supporting Dixie State University have for all people, we felt it would be appropriate to take those actions.
With the decision that you're retiring those symbols, as you say, does that indicate a permanent decision related to the statue that was removed from the front of from campus down in Southern Campus?
I think we need to get everybody together and have a discussion and develop some options about what we might want to do with the statue. I'm quite convinced that we can collaborate on a good outcome, one that will seem reasonable to everyone.
I've suggested that the space where the Confederate statue once sat would be an excellent place to erect a statue of President Stephen D. Nadal in honor of his remarkable contribution to this university and the advancement that it's experienced in his 5 years of terrific leadership.
You can probably raise about 10 cents to support that.
No, I'd be easy.
You know, one particular symbol I haven't really addressed yet was the use of blackface at the school at times. That for a lot of folks is considered to be racist, and there are pictures of it in the yearbook. How do you respond to that particular thing, that particular symbol?
Ask if I wanted to answer this, the answer is no. They're going to be reflective, I guess, of the time, not unique to the geographic area here. That I think is something that, retrospective, we look at now. Obviously, we wish we had a different pathway.
it is not unique to this area of the state. It's not unique to this state. It's not unique to this geographic portion of this country. It's not unique to any part of the geographic portion of this country at the time that it took place here as well. We're happy to move on. And I think what you heard today was not so much looking at that part of the past, but really looking at building for the future. The university status that we have here today is part to celebrate. That is a tremendous accomplishment for the faculty to raise the amount of PhD and the educational quality here to raise to university status as a requirement of the Board of Regents is a monumental task. And so to have that and the educational opportunities and what that means to the economic vitality for the individuals that graduate from here, for their families and for future generations, is hard to measure. This is a sentinel day for this part of the state, and we are delighted to have a university come into this portion, to this community.
Do you think an apology would have been, how deeply was that considered? Would that have been one step in moving to that new future?
Well, we appreciate the question and thank you for the refocus on university status, because at the end of the day, this is why we're here. But we are exceptionally sensitive to the feelings and the concerns of all people. All stakeholders have that sensitivity and concern. And we suggest that we've made an acknowledgement that was important to make, and we have retired those symbols. And yes, I would, to answer your question directly, Lindsay, include that in the category of Confederate symbols, yes. But I also agree with Trustee Pike that this was not an uncommon thing. So that doesn't make it appropriate or better. And we've moved past that. During our meeting, we pointed out that at the root of Dixie, at its very origin, was a community comprised of settlers from many, many different countries, representing different ethnicities and cultures and languages. And that they coexisted peacefully with Native Americans of different tribes was an indication of things to come, and of the welcoming environment and the nature of what is defined as Utah's Dixie. So that's it's a heritage that we're pleased with, and I think is the real heritage at the root that represents this community and this institution. So thank you.
How influential was the research done by Sorensen Advertising in coming to today's decision?
Can you repeat the question for me? Yeah.
The research done by Sorensen Advertising, how much of that played in, or how much was that used in coming up with today's decision to vote on the name and pass it to the Dixie State University?
Well, the information that was presented 9 days ago in the public meeting by Sorensen Advertising, all of that information, all the data, the research collected was presented to the Board of Trustees, and the trustees then used that information as a tool to be able to come up with the best decision for this institution moving forward as a university.
Let me just add that what you try to do in these institutions is make data-driven decisions. And while we knew that there were strong feelings on both sides, it wasn't clear perhaps what the proportion of those feelings was, what the makeup and various constituent groups. And so I think their data was very useful to help us understand the tremendous support that there was for the name Dixie, and how it played out in the various constituent groups. So it provided data to make data-driven decisions that we wouldn't have had if we just sat around in a room and said, how do you feel, how do you feel, how do you think these people feel, how do you think those people feel? We got what we thought was as good a data as was available.
And some have asked if you were surprised at how much controversy there was. On the other side, were you surprised at just how much support there was for the name Dixie, especially from students?
I'll just say, I guess I was a little surprised. I mean, I've lived in this community for 17 and a half years, and it is Dixie, you know, I mean, and so on the one hand, I wasn't surprised, but I guess how high a level might have surprised me a little bit. I thought there might be a little less, you know, strong feeling or, you know, sort of desire to look at other options, but there just wasn't. And I think it speaks well to the fact that, you know, this is Dixie. It's written on the mountain, you know, and it's and so, you know, no matter what you do to you know, any particular institution, you change the name, this is still Dixie. And so I think that's what it kind of brought home to me, to speak for myself. But I do think back to the, you know, previous question, I think the process helped me a lot. I think it had a, you know, big impact on how I felt we should proceed.
Do you think that with Brody Mikesell's very vocal hesitancy in agreeing with the rest of the group, do you think that might come across as like strong-arming the student representative on the board of trustees at all? Is that something you fear?
No, we don't fear that because Brody made his own decision. He's a very strong-willed young man, very articulate and thoughtful, contemplative, and we believe what he was struggling with is the representation that he has to all students on campus, including those who feel strongly about the name to the contrary. So it was his decision. I met with him last night. I met with him again this morning to discern what his vote would be, and we're proud of him. And I would call out in particular that I think he's a superb student body president because he cares about every single student. He represents every demographic, and he chose to make a statement in their behalf, but he also chose to vote with the balance of the board, so that going forward, our board sends a clear message of unanimity regarding where this institution is going. So thanks for the question.
What happens now going forward in terms of marketing and getting Dixie out there as a university? You know, we ran a conversation, there was some discussion about possible confusion as to the geographic location for people who aren't from this area and for others who might choose to come to the school, students. I mean, how do you let people know this is where we are and this is who we are? What is that?
Well, I think that's really a great question, and one that's been on our mind administratively. We want to put together an advertising campaign that takes advantage of the newest university in the state. We want to trumpet to students to come to the warmth of Dixie, the vitality of Dixie, the hospitality of Dixie, and it's in St. George. And so we're going to figure out a way to make sure that the name Dixie State University and the community of St. George and the name Utah are combined in everything that we do for the next several years, so that there's no ambiguity about where we are, about what we want to have happen with our students, that we're all about their success. And so we'll with the help of our own in-house folks, and maybe call on some folks from other entities, we'll put together a great, we hope it'll be a great, positive campaign that associates the university with the region and the state, and make sure that everybody, and by the way, pretty much everybody knows who we are, knows where we are. So this will just be reinforcing, but we'll take advantage of the university status to do a bang-up job of telling our story.
Do you need to do anything more to convince the Board of Regents to do this in the legislature, or have you done everything you can and now it's just waiting?
Well, the board has a procedure which they are following, besides putting in place the benchmarks and us reporting on them periodically. So it's been no surprise to them that we've met the benchmarks. We've been telling them that we were going to do it and when we were going to do it now for nearly 18 months. So they've been well apprised in advance. Their procedure is to have a subcommittee of the board, the program review committee, review any new degrees, or in our case, a change of status. And that committee has met, and they have unanimously approved Dixie becoming a university. They will meet again in a formal session on Friday, and then their recommendation will go to the full board. The full board has been anticipating this, as I said, both informally for at least a year and a half, and now formally through their committee structure. So I think for them it will be a win-win. They'll be able to declare victory because they have put in place a process for controlling and monitoring higher education. So this is not going to be a fight between the regents and the legislature, which has been acrimonious in some of these changes in the past. They're going to be able to say, look, we've organized the process, we've monitored the process, they've met the benchmarks, and we've completed the process, and we're now really enthusiastic about recommending to the legislature that Dixie be a university. The legislature will take it up sometime in February, and we have the most able legislative delegation probably in the state right now, both in the House and in the Senate. So I'm sure that they'll be able to have their colleagues agree with them on the matter of Dixie as a university. The governor is a friend of higher education and certainly a friend of our region, and he'll support it enthusiastically.
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions.
What does the school and the community at large win from this development, from advancing from college status to universities?
Let me just add to what was said earlier. From a state perspective, the ability, having sat in some legislative chairs, there was confrontation might be too strong, but there was certainly very direct discussions with the Board of Regents about if you don't have a plan, how are we supposed to determine how to get to that point? So don't complain to the legislature that we're bypassing processes when there are no processes. The Board of Regents, much to their credit, put together a template, a pathway, and a structure by which institutions can now know the pathway that they ought to take. That helps the legislature, that helps the Board of Regents, helps the trustees and all of the institutions throughout the state understand a plan and program that take place. And today is a culmination of that first steps of those plans and what can be accomplished. And what that means to the community, I think the educational opportunities, the single greatest determinant of whether somebody is going to have financial stability, family stability, household stability, you can put anything you want in front of that word stability, happens to be what their education is. That's the single greatest determinant. And to be able to have that, particularly at an affordable level, here in our community where folks can stay home and obtain that, is critical, I think, to the future. That elevates every one of us, both now and future generations. And I think this is a tremendous day to celebrate. This is a sentinel day, not only for the state, but particularly for this area and this community. We don't know the opportunities and the blessings that this will come, but we are about to find out on a great journey over the next 50 to 100 years.
There's one other issue I think you get a very good response from you guys on, which was the sponsorship issue. A lot of folks are saying, well, some of the big sponsors in the university threatened to pull some of their funding if anything would change. How big of a weight was that for you? Was it a consideration as you were looking at the night?
There are always going to be opinions by our donors about whether our basketball team is winning or losing, and how long before we get a football program that we can really love to support. And the building should be a different color, and the name is something that is not my best, my favorite, and through all of those things, our donors are able to give us their opinion. But then, you know what? Part of the Dixie spirit that Chairman Kaplan talked about, that values diversity and that values everyone's opinion, also values supporting this institution. And at the end of the day, they come forward and they support us. They support us with scholarships that go to needy students, that go to non-traditional students, that go to minority students. They support us when we ask for money for buildings. They support us when we need chemistry labs. And they have opinions about what we do, as I've suggested. But at the end of the day, they say, you know what, first and foremost, I believe in young people. I believe in non-traditional students. I believe in education. I want to help. How can I help? Whatever I might have thought about that final shot at the end of the game, that's immaterial. How can I help?
With the process that's been going on, obviously this has been a rebranding process, and there will be more to come as Dixie becomes a university, which is anticipated is pretty smooth. Hopefully, appears to be pretty favorable expectations. Are there any other immediate rebranding priorities that you're looking at as far as, I don't know, mascot, as changes, as far as anything else that may be happening around campus that accompanies this transition?
No, I think we're going to focus on telling the university story, on promoting the importance of education, the governor's 66%, making sure that we invite everyone in our community to come and improve themselves in order to benefit their families and their community. So I think we're going to stay focused on university.
Let me add to that. Absolutely, you're an important component of what that is. Many of you woke up, or yesterday woke up in single digit. I want you to look out there. We have two kinds of weather down here, the absolutely delightful and the highly unusual. And to go back and brand that blue sky and 50-degree temperature, what the rest of the state is. And part of what the community is down here is what the message should be. And I look forward to that. I'm sure all of your colleagues are really upset that it's 55 down there and 25 in Salt Lake.
Anything else? Thank you to the press. We appreciate your coming down, and we appreciate your involvement.
Thank you guys very much. Part of what's wonderful about university status is all the publicity that we're getting that will benefit our students. It will be helpful for employers to say, wow, there's a university down there with a whole lot of well-educated graduates. I can hardly wait to get down there and interview. So when you put us on TV, you're sort of saying, students, we like you. We're going to publicize your institution. We're going to give you some visibility for employers to come and hire you. High school kids, go get an education. So thank you for your spotlight on us, and we're grateful for you.
On behalf of Dixie State College, I'd like to thank the members of the media that covered this from the get-go, and for your participation today. We appreciate it, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.